Imagine this. It's the pitch black hour of 3 a.m. You're all alone at work in a sprawling, outdated office building, and suddenly, the inexplicable happens. Picture it in vivid detail. The soul-chilling silence of the office after hours, broken occasionally by the lonely hum of the antiquated air conditioning. Flickering, sickly fluorescent lights barely illuminating the maze-like cubicles, casting long, grotesque shadows that seem to dance of their own accord. The floorboards, worn with age, creak ominously under your weight. You're alone, the only companionship being the relentless ticking of the wall clock, each second echoing in the vast emptiness, and the unknown menace lurking in the dimly lit corners. As the temperature inexplicably plummets, a sudden chill sweeps through the air, sending shivers down your spine, making the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end. You hear the faint echo of a door closing somewhere in the distant recesses of the office, the sound hanging heavy in the cold silence. The sense of dread consuming you deepens, gnawing at your nerves, amplifying the fear and the suspense. As we journey deeper into this shrouded darkness, we'll dare to tread the thin line between the solid ground of reality and the foggy abyss of the supernatural. Brace yourself, clasp your hands tight and hold your breath as we unravel 3 terrifying tales of night. Our first story transports us to a gargantuan office building, where the 5th floor harbored an inexplicable, eerie secret. Nestled in the city's heart, this colossal structure of glass and steel radiated an aura of corporate functionality by day, but by night, its character altered dramatically. The 5th floor, in particular, seemed to be a dwelling place for an eerie presence. Our narrative revolves around a committed night shift worker, David, known his diligence and always being the last one to bid adieu to the office. One particular night, while working in the barely illuminated office, an unnerving chill began to crawl up his spine. The air around him turned frigid, and a creeping sense of unease gradually filled the room. David attempted to dismiss it as late-night jitters, but the oddity persisted. As night after passed, the strange happenings escalated. There was something uncanny about the faint rustle of papers. It was as if an unseen hand was flipping through them, even though there was no breeze to explain their movement. Then there was the soft, almost imperceptible echo of footsteps, eerily resonating through the empty office. It was a sound that was out of place in the deserted space, and it filled the silence with its ghostly cadence. But what unnerved David the most was the fleeting shadow that occasionally crossed his peripheral vision. It was quick and elusive, a somewhat humanoid figure that seemed to lurk in the corners of the room, appearing and disappearing without a trace. David's rational mind worked overtime to dismiss these incidents mere figments of his overworked imagination, but deep within, he couldn't shake off the feeling that something was awry. Then, one fateful night, the climax of this chilling tale unfolded. David was engrossed in his work, stillness of the night punctuated only by the rhythmic tapping of his keyboard. Suddenly, the room was engulfed in an unnatural darkness. The steady hum of the computer, the distant city sounds. Everything turned eerily quiet. An icy dread gripped him as he felt an unseen presence draw closer, the air around him to buzz with an electric charge, and the anticipation was palpable. Frantically, he groped around his desk for a flashlight, his heart pounding against his chest. When he finally switched it on, its weak beam piercing the darkness, David felt a prickling sensation on his neck. He wasn't alone. When the lights flickered back on, David found himself alone in the room. But the chair across from him, which had been vacant all night, now rocked gently back and forth as if someone had just risen from it. A cold blast of swept across the room, making the papers on his desk flutter violently, and the computer screen flickered with an eerie glow. David vowed never to work a night shift again. The 5th floor, once abuzz with activity, now stood silent and deserted after nightfall. No one dared to cross its threshold after sunset, the chilling tales of David's experiences as a strong deterrent. And so, the haunting on floor 5 remains, a chilling testament to the fear of the unknown. Next, we find ourselves in the isolated depths of a decrepit call center, a long-forgotten relic of a bygone era, where a seemingly routine night shift spiraled into a night of unspeakable terror. Picture this. A lone operator, whom we'll affectionately call Sam, is manning the lines deep into the witching hours of the night. He is surrounded by the spectral glow of antiquated computer screens, their flickering light casting eerie shadows that dance across room. The droning hum of the outdated air conditioning unit is the solitary sound that dares to disturb the oppressive silence. Then, out of nowhere, the shrill ring of a landline phone slices through the quiet, a sound so unexpected that it sends a jolt of adrenaline coursing through Sam's body. He answers, but the line is eerily silent, save for the faint hiss of static. An inexplicable chill washes over Sam, making the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. He tries to dismiss it as a mere technical glitch and hangs up, but the relative peace is fleeting. The phone rings once more, the same line, the same eerie static. Yet this time there's something else. A whisper, so distant and feeble that it's almost devoured by the crackling static. Sam strains his ears, his paranoia mounting, desperate to decipher the words. Just when he's about to disconnect the call, a bone-chilling voice cuts through the static clear as day. "You are not alone." The words reverberate around the room, each echo sending a fresh wave of fear coursing through Sam's veins. He glances around the desolate call center, half expecting to see a sinister figure lurking in the shadows. But there's nothing, only the endless rows of abandoned desks, bathed in the cold, sterile light of the screens. The calls persist, each one more terrifying than its predecessor. The voice grows louder, more insistent, displaying an uncanny knowledge of Sam's life. His fear escalates with each chilling call, feeding the growing dread that something malevolent is coming for him. The voice seems to relish in his fear, whispering threats that grow more ominous as the night trudges on. As the hours tick away, the calls become unbearable. The voice on the line multiplies, transforming into a cacophony of whispers, all repeating the same haunting phrase, "You are not alone." Sam teeters on the edge of sanity when suddenly the calls cease. The silence is deafening, suffocating. But just as Sam begins to exhale a shaky sigh of relief, one final call breaks silence. This time, there's no whisper, only a deafening scream that ricochets off the call center walls. Then a silence so profound that it's almost tangible. Sam is left alone in the chilling emptiness of the call center, the horrifying climax of his night shift forever seared into his psyche. The phantom call, a tale designed to send shivers down your spine, a grim reminder that we are never truly alone. Our final tale propels us into the eerie depths of a deserted warehouse where a diligent night shift worker, James, faced an encounter that defied all known logic and explanation. Imagine this, a typical yet charged evening, the air heavy with palpable anticipation. Our protagonist, a solitary figure, finds himself alone amid the monotonous hum of machinery. Their drone, a metallic symphony, reverberates through the vast expanse, punctuated by towering stacks of crates and boxes. All is well, or at least it seems so, until an out-of-place shadow materializes. At the onset, James brushes it off, a mere trick of the light. But as the hours wind down, the shadow begins to pulsate with a life of its own, moving independent of any discernible source of light. It waltzes in the gloomy corners of the warehouse, a phantom slipping through the stacks, always barely visible. Curiosity shifts into unease, the shadow darkens, grows denser, its movements showing a chilling intent. Now it's no longer a shadow. It transforms into a shape, not quite human but uncannily familiar. It seems sentient, studying James, a predator sizing up its prey. James, though stalwart, feels a primal fear gnawing at his insides as he becomes a participant in a game of cat and mouse. His heart becomes the drum in this macabre orchestra, its rhythm mirroring the relentless ticking of the warehouse clock. The air turns frigid, the silence more profound and the darkness oppressive. And then, catastrophe strikes. The power goes out, plunging the warehouse into an abyss. In the pitch darkness, James fumbles desperately for his flashlight, the metallic taste of fear permeating his mouth. The momentary relief as his hand clasps the flashlight is instantaneously shattered by an icy realization. He is not alone. As he flicks the switch on, the beam of light pierces the darkness, revealing the specter of the shadow. It looms over him, a nightmare brought to life against the meager beam of his flashlight. His breath stutters, his blood freezes. The face-off is broken as the shadow lunges. James stumbles back, a primal scream tearing through the silence. But then, as suddenly as it appeared, The shadow dissipates, retreating into the murky corners of the warehouse, evaporating as if it had merely been a figment of his imagination. James is alone once more, his scream still echoing like a haunting refrain in the silent warehouse. This chilling tale of the shadow in the warehouse is a stark reminder that sometimes our fears lurk closer than we dare to think. The unknown, the unseen, the unexplainable weave a terrifying tapestry of our deepest fears. And as James discovered, these fears can surface in the most mundane places, turning the ordinary into a chilling spectacle. So there you have it, 3 chilling tales of night shift horrors that remind us the darkness often holds more than just shadows. Our journey began on the desolate 5th floor, where an unsuspecting guard, Mike, encountered inexplicable phenomena. The chilling sounds of distant whispers echoing through the long, empty corridors, the unnerving apparition of a woman in white, a haunting that defied all logic and reason. Mike's breath hitched, his heart pounded as cold dread seeped into his veins, leaving an indelible mark on his life. Next, we delved deeper into the eerie world of the Phantom Call, the relentless ringing of a disconnected line in the quiet office of our second protagonist, Linda, a late-night radio jockey. The disembodied voice on the other end, a chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying experiences can come from the most mundane sources. A simple phone call transformed into a night of terror. The feeling of being watched, of not being alone, clawed at Linda's sanity, her fear growing with each passing moment. Finally, we ventured into the dilapidated warehouse, where the darkness was an entity unto itself. The shadowy figure that lurked in the corners, always just out of sight of our third character, a warehouse worker named Tom, yet close enough to fuel the fear. An ordinary shift turned into a heart-stopping encounter with the unknown. Tom's pulse skyrocketed as he felt the ominous presence drawing closer, his primal fear of the dark rearing its ugly head. These stories, each unique in its horror, serve as chilling reminders that the night shift may not be as solitary as it seems, each tale woven with the common thread of the unknown lurking in the darkness. An inexplicable whisper, an unshakable feeling of being watched, a crescendo of fear. Thank you for joining us in this journey into the unknown. Remember, the next time you find yourself alone at night, the fear isn't unfounded. You never know what might be lurking in the shadows.